As far as Milei, Milei is the other kind of leader. We have Trump and Noboa being the rich men themselves, representing their kind of elite in the power. But now we have the other kind, which is like these kind of actors or servants, like we have Milei or we have Bukele and others. But in the case of Milei, is very specific and spectacular the way that he has imposed this geopolitical domination in the country, and I mean in many levels. So my thesis here is that he's the opposite of nationalistic, and most of the countries and the movements that are persecuted and in the continent are the nationalist, movements, because the empire, if you will, or the machine or corporations, they don't want the little countries to start little corporations and compete with them. They don't want them to give surplus to the basic raw goods, like Bolivia, for example. When Bolivia started trying to give that and do that and build industries around copper, that's when the problem started. No? So now in Argentina, we have something similar. They are destroying the local economy, the local industry, the local culture, just to turn the country into a raw material exporters, just so they get the copper, the oil, the water out of Argentina, and they
Black
completely.
Rock colony.
Sorry.
It's a Black Rock colony, Argentina, right now, basically.
Yeah, they're imposing a model to extract the last of the resources, disregarding of the people anymore. They're not even caring to deal with anymore. They're like literally destroying the country and indebting the country. It's criminal the way, like, they're taking loans and loans and loans to stabilize the changing rate, but they don't get much out of that, because the only people because, like, if you stabilize the changing rate and you invest in local industry and help create jobs and make an effort for a reason, then it's worth it. But if you do all that investment for just some financial gurus to make some money in the bicicleta financiera, but not much more, it's like a waste of time, because at the end of the day, you did all this process and you didn't get concrete results to improve anything, but actually all the opposite. You can argue that Argentina is going the way of Ecuador. Argentina is going to turn into Ecuador. Ecuador is the process that is further down in that process, is the country that's further down in the process of descomposition and disinvestment, of lack of investment in the society, in the state. Now Argentina is going that way, and now here in the United States, we see that they are also imposing and starting to bring that model here as well.
Oh, well, yeah, they've been doing it since the 80s, and especially since the fall of the socialist bloc. It's been, on steroids here. Now what they're doing in the US is bringing in an apparatus of total repression and normalizing the use of the military and secret police in our cities under Trump. I mean, Trump's about to occupy Chicago and using a naval base in the area as the base for the occupation. They're in DC now. The National Guard, they're standing around taking pictures of people picking up trash, but they're just cover for the secret police and ICE. And ICE's objective is ostensibly immigration, but it has a much deeper objective that goes further beyond that relates to crushing dissent. So that's what I think the agenda is here. And it's a sort of it's a Palantir state. And you've documented, Oscar, how Javier Milei is setting up, has passed new anti-protest laws in expectation of protests against austerity, but he might be on his last legs. I mean, this was Javier Milei at a recent rally being pelted with stones.
Este es el momento en el que la caravana.
The people are not happy campers there as he sells off their gold, sells off all of their strategic assets. The cost of living continues to go up. Is he on his way out? I mean, that would be devastating for Trump International to see Javier Milei go down.
They threw a broccoli at him that day. And so, yeah, I think he's on his way out because he's been creating a lot of enemies within his own coalition in Argentinian society, because he's been adjusting the the retirees and the children and making everybody upset, and he's had not much to show for. And on top of that, like the day after those images, a new scandal popped up, and it was basically Milei's best friend and lawyer and somebody who works with him on the regular. In fact, is the person who has gone the most into the pink house, which is like the White House, in the United States. In Argentina, they have the pink house. So he's the one who has gone there the most. It's called Diego Españolo. He talked. I'm not sure whether he initially wanted to, or he was just confiding to somebody and got recorded, or he was actually trying not to. But he basically said that he was warning Milei about the big corruption and that his own sister, Milei's sister, was involved in this. And then it's recorded that she takes 5% of every contract that's signed between the state and the providers that provide the handicap, basically. So she takes 5% of each of those contracts. And this is the second time Karina Milei is being outed as somebody who takes a direct bribe. You remember Hayden Mark Davis, the crypto scandal guy? He said, I give money to his sister and he's my bitch, or something like that. It was like some crazy language. So this is the second time this happened. And this time it's been not just one audio, but many others that come out. And funny enough, a few days after these leaks started, Milei used his brand new military dictator powers and put the censorship in all of these. There were even calls to arrest the journalists that pulled this out. And so it got really ugly in the sense that he used the state to shut this up. But at the same time, since it already had come out and he's using the state to shut them up, is like the Epstein files here. The more they're trying to not do it, the more they're trying to hash it, the more people is like, oh, wait, what about that? So same thing in Argentina now. This scandal where she takes 3% home and she shares the other 2% with with Carlos Menem's son, by the way.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that is going to cost him, I think, the election, which is this weekend. And what happens is that if he loses the elections, which he will, we need to understand that it's not just Milei that's in the one side here. It was Milei and the IMF working together, hand to hand, hand in hand, to help Milei get to the elections with a favorable economic outlook, which didn't happen anyway. But part of the loan and many things that happened along the process was specifically for the IMF to help Milei defeat the Kirchnerism. And that's the second time they do it, the IMF, I mean, because they also did the same with Macri, and it didn't work either. And this time around, they were playing like they wanted Milei to play by the rules, the IMF, I mean, and they said to Milei that he cannot use the money for the bicicleta financiera, which I explained earlier, they use the money to stabilize the exchange rate. And he did it anyways, and they didn't say nothing because they noticed and they knew that if he didn't do that, the peso will get really down in relation to the dollar, and a huge devaluation would follow, and it will be economic disaster. So they help him hold until the elections this weekend. So what happens is, like, next Monday, this is gonna devaluate the peso. Is gonna fall like crazy. That they already had that in store. They already were planning for that. And now that the Milei is gonna lose the elections, that's gonna be even more amplified. So Milei is gonna start his second half of his term under heavy duress, because after the elections, the economy is going to tank. It's going to tank, and he's going to have to deal with that.
Wait, these are parliamentary elections or national elections?
Parliamentary, yes.
Yes. So after the parliamentary elections, which his faction will lose, the economy's going straight to hell.
Yeah.
And then that will lead likely to Milei's ultimate demise. And I wouldn't want to succeed him. Go ahead, Diego.
Yeah, let's not call it an informed opinion. It's more a gut feeling or something, but maybe it's even the form of a question, but are we that positively sure that even when the economy will tank and it's going to be dire straits and so on, that's going to be the end of Milei? because there are so many landmark moments that could have been. And also on the other side, I mean, the threshold of tolerating each and every of these movements and being able to absorb it by the government, it kind of, I have like the feeling that this is going to be forever and it's not going to matter. Regardless of the tank and everything, as long as the repressive apparatus is at place, this could go on forever, especially thinking about being Argentina.
Yeah.
And the political factionalism there. But this is not, of course, this is not an analytical take. This is just me.
I think it's a good gut feeling. I mean, he might not fall in the sense of leaving presidency. He might, but he might not. But he might be severely handicapped for his second half because he was able to do what he was able to do in the first term because he had basically carte blanche, meaning that he had a Congress to sign for his stuff, and even the Peronists ended up working with him in certain things to facilitate things happening. That's why the working class and the working movements are angry at the Peronists. That's also in the documentary. But you know, he without those factic powers of being able to rule by decree, Milei's scope of action was going to be really, really curtailed, you know, and cut. But we have an element that we have to understand here. Milei is the economic tool, is the economic puppet, if you will, right?
It's a bumper, yeah. It's
right.
like a bumper.
But you have Victoria Villarreal, who's the vice president. She's is a different group's puppet. She is the puppet of the military that led the coup d'etat, you know, that
the dark network
brutally and murder everybody and stole kids and torture everybody. She represents them. So if they go and get rid of Milei, she goes to power. It could be even worse because that's Videla basically back in power, and now they have these dictatorial powers. Something like here in the States, you know, when Obama instituted these powers where any state agent can deem you a terrorist or a danger or a problem, and then they go and get you and nobody will know about it. All these powers in the hands of the Videla people. So this is why there's like a thing there, whether should we get rid of Milei? Should we not? Should we let him finish? Should we? Because, you know, it's a delicate dance, like you point out, because also Milei's backers are very important people. I mean, not just the American empire and the corporations, the American corporations, but the Argentine establishment. You know, the Zionists are very big in Argentina. We have Elstein. You have a number of the richest people in the country are from the Zionist movement, and they are straight, you know, strongly behind Milei. So we have those two important groups, you know, the American and Western oriented society and establishment outside the Argentina, but also you have the Zionists and some everybody who believes in the military, you know, in Videla and all of them, they are also behind Milei and Villarreal, obviously. So yes, add to that the fact that the justice, and I quote unquote justice in Argentina is kind of like the Ecuadorian justice. You know, it's just who you want to win. I mean, what's good for you? I mean, pay me here or under the table. So that's how it works. Otherwise, Milei will have been cooked after the liver scandal. In fact, in Argentina, they trust more something happening to Milei in the United States than in Argentina, for sure. So that could be the one thing that happens. So you have a great gut punch, but at the same time, he's going to be really harmed and hurt after these elections, I think.
Diego, unless you want to add anything, I wanted to ask one last question.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a horrible dark fun fact, but Victoria Villarreal uncle, which was a lieutenant colonel back then, was the head of one of the main guys at the Olimpo torture camp, and he was actually the guy who has been appointed to disappear Héctor Germano Oesterheld, Haroldo Conti, and Raimundo Gleiser. I mean, he's also he was like the intellectual killer kind of torture back then. Just to add that horrible fact that Victoria Villarreal
And sorry, and they used to have a Ford Falcon, a green Ford Falcon, to take people to go and disappear them. And now they're using that. They're using the Ford Falcon. Not only one of the subjects of interview in our documentary took a picture inside of that, and I mean, like, one of the ideologues, one of the influencers. But also they are actually using, and I mean the state, they parked the green Ford Falcon outside Jorge Rial's house. Jorge Rial is the journalist that leaked the scandal recently, the 5% scandal, the Karina Gate. He's the one who put it out. So they went, when they wanted to shut him up, they parked a Ford Falcon outside his house.
So for those who don't know, the Ford Falcon was used by the Argentinian military dictatorship secret police to disappear dissidents. And, when a Ford Falcon showed up at your house, you were in trouble. And Ford actually maintained a plant, I believe, in Buenos Aires, which was used as a torture camp. So that's kind of shocking and frightening that it's come back as a symbol. And Argentinians are presented with a choice between the president's crypto rug pulls and the vice president's dirty war echoes. It's a stark choice.